Where is AI going in the next month and the next year? I guess this is a question that everybody's asking. And one tool that we can use to answer this question is the InfoQ AI, ML, and Data Engineering Trends Report for 2025. Welcome back to Think Design Work Smart. I'm Alex Bolboaca and I'm coming at you from the Mozaic Works studios. And today I want to review this report, and I'm gonna go a little bit quicker just to focus on what I'm interested in, which is mostly about AI in software development, mostly about large language models used in software development, and not about, for example, data engineering or things like that. That's a different area that I'm not so interested in right now. And as usual, these reports, like the architecture and design report, is structured based on innovators, early adopters, early majority, and late majority. And in each phase, they put certain trends, certain techniques, certain practices, certain technologies. And we have, as a result, a pretty filled-in graph that shows a lot of different things. So I'm gonna go through the article first and then go back to this diagram and take a look at some other things that may have caught my eye. The brief, the key takeaways is that the next frontier in AI technologies is going to be physical AI. They expand a little bit later that this is about technologies that work on robots and on smart devices, on smartphones, and so on. Retrieval augmented generation has become a commodity lately with increasing adoption of RAG-based solutions in enterprise applications. So RAG is the capability of a large language model to include in its answers documents, URL, HTML files, URLs, search results, things like that. And this indeed has become a commodity in all common agents that we'd be using in ChatGPT, in Claude. They know how to search on the internet. They know how to retrieve things, how to add those in their results. And I've been saying for a long time that these are very useful, because what you can do in an enterprise is to get one of the open source models. So for example, Llama or Llama, I think it's called, and use it, run it on your own servers, and add data from your organization, and then you use this model in order to get answers that are fit for your own context, and also that don't go outside your security boundaries. So I don't know exactly what they say with increasing adoption of RAG-based solutions in enterprise applications. Maybe more of those are getting into large applications like Microsoft tools or whatever you are using for accounting and ERPs and stuff like that. But I'm not sure how big the adoption is right now for large companies. There's one trend that I've seen starting, which is large companies, Accenture and Lufthansa, have decided and have announced that they will switch to AI. And they are starting an AI transformation, and that means that that is very relevant because Accenture is a large consultancy, so they are betting on AI transformations coming. And Lufthansa is a German company, which means that it has much, much stronger privacy laws that they need to follow than other organizations. So the fact that they need to switch, they want to switch, means that they figured out a way to avoid privacy issues. Or maybe they don't believe people will get upset. Although, if you are that big, my guess is it's the first. You'll probably found a way to avoid this. And I expect one way is to use RAG-based solutions on your own infrastructure. And this is very important. It's a trend that we'll probably see. A shift is occurring from AI being an assistant to AI being a co-creator of the software. We're not just writing code faster, we're entering a phase where the entire application can be developed, tested, and shipped with the AI as part of the development team. This is indeed a trend. I think it's more in US, at least in the Western world. It's happening more in the US. In Europe, due to GDPR and privacy laws, and then a lot of concerns for secrets, not sure it's happening as fast. But the thing here is that they will move infrastructure into their own data centers and start doing that anyway. So this will happen. If it's not happening yet, it will happen. We are going to get there. I think it's inevitable at this point that AI will be a part of the development team. And by AI, in this case, I'll mean Gen AI. This is what we are talking about. We are talking about large language models or smaller language models, as we'll see that this is a possibility that we'll start getting smaller language models that are more focused on specific areas. AI-driven DevOps processes and practices are getting a lot of attention this year. I think it makes a lot of sense to use large language models with infrastructure. And I've just did a video last week about how Claude can help with infrastructure. And it's been very interesting, an interesting experiment. Of course, it's not 100%. It took me very close to where I wanted to go, but I needed to do the last bit of effort myself, but it's still great. It enabled me to solve some problems. And I think if you know a lot more about automating infrastructure, you'll be able to do a lot of the things faster, because it's really code, configuration, stuff where AI, and it's also very specific and limited domain, which is precisely where large language models shine. They are much better in a limited context and for a limited set of features than for, let's say, everything. In the area of human-computer interaction, with emerging technologies, we should map all our research and engineering goals to true human needs and understand how these technologies fit into people's lives and design for that. Yeah, I guess this is what's true no matter what you are building and with what you are building. So this is a pretty general statement. I'd like to see something more specific. New protocols like Model Context Protocol and Agent-to-Agent will continue to offer interoperability between AI client applications and AI agents with backend systems. This is a very interesting trend. So Model Context Protocol and Agent-to-Agent, these are protocols, open protocols that allow communication between agents or between agents and other parts of your application. So imagine you have APIs, and then you have agents that can interact with those APIs. That can give you a lot of useful information. So let's see now a bit of their briefs. In the first category, innovators has a few new topics added this year. These topics are discussed in detail. AI agents. One area that I see major development this year is the AI-enabled agent programs, with companies like Anthropic recently announcing Cloud sub-agents and Amazon announcing their Bedrock agents. A lot of innovations are happening in this space. AI agents are transforming from performing individual tasks to executing complex systems by orchestrating chain tasks in a workflow, as well as being responsible for decision-making and context-based adaptations. So, and you have things like generally ChatGPT agent to work with applications based on spreadsheets and presentation, Amazon open sourced Strands Agent SDK for building AI agents, NVIDIA creative visual AI agents for developing video analytics solutions. Okay, so we have these new toys basically that you can use. You can develop agents that are doing things independently. And here, what they hope is that they can orchestrate chain tasks in a workflow. This is where things can go wrong pretty quickly because, as we know, on every prompt, there's a possibility for mistakes when you're using large language models. So you need to double check the result of every prompt. Now, when you chain these and you don't double check, the issue is that errors can accumulate. And by the end, you can get to catastrophic issues. So I'm not certain that this technology is yet mature to the point where you can actually do completely independent agents in a workflow, unless they are working on very specific, very small contexts. I still have to see this in practice. I have yet to trust it completely. I guess this is why it's still on innovators, so this is not an established technology. This is mostly something that people are playing with at this moment. And yeah, OpenAI, NVIDIA, of course, they hope, Claude, Anthropic, Amazon, these companies hope that this technology will take over and help them benefit, because they are the ones selling infrastructure and the things that you need in order to build these agents. So if agents take off, then they will be the first to benefit. And we might get to a point where we have some patterns for making this happen, but my guess is that these patterns will necessarily have to include things like an agent that creates things, an agent that verifies things, and probably multiple types of verifications. And at that point, the question is this really valuable, or could a human do better? We'll have to see. We'll have to see how far this goes. Multimodal language models. This means they are now trained on multiple data types, whether it's text, images, audio, and video. Yeah, so this is a development in the models. Honestly, I'm not that interested in that yet, but I can understand why. I mean, there are some areas where it's interesting. For example, if you have architecture diagrams, you could export those in any image format, and you want to have a chat around the architecture diagrams, or maybe analyze for security, or maybe do other things. And you have the images, then it's great. So I understand why multimodal can be useful, but to me, not so much about video, audio. Although I guess maybe extracting requirements might be something. You do a lot of interviews with potential users and then you try to extract requirements from there. Maybe. So there are applications, but as they are saying, it's still innovators. We don't know how well these things are working yet. I mean, really battle tested, not in nice marketing presentations or influencers showing off various techniques. We want this to be stable, working, reliable if you want to use them in large companies. Physical AI, the embodiment of artificial intelligence in robots. Okay, that's interesting, but again, not something I'm particularly interested in. If we get smarter robots, it will be very cool. Well, let's see. There's still a lot to do there. Model Context Protocol, introduced by Anthropic in November 2024. It's an open standard designed to help frontier large language models produce better and more relevant responses. It provides a standardized protocol for integrating and sharing data between external tool systems and data sources with a large language model, effectively eliminating the need for fragmenting and custom integrations. Yeah, so this was really useful. It created a whole set of improvements in Claude. I've seen this developing, so absolutely. Human-computer interaction is seeing major transformations and innovations, of course, due to AI interfaces. One thing I have to say here, though, is that personally, I will never use voice to communicate with software. I've tried this, but it doesn't work for me. It just makes me unfocused. Just unfocuses me. It's not helpful. I can communicate through text, can communicate maybe through video, but communicating through voice with software, that doesn't really work for me. And it's funny because I grew up with Star Trek The Next Generation, and a large part of it was talking to a computer. But rewatching the show a few years ago, I realized what a silly way of interacting with a computer. I mean, it looks cool, but everybody can hear what you're saying. There's no privacy there, at least on the ship. And they were saying the authentication passwords out loud. It's so funny. And at some points there were questions like, how many planets fit these criteria? And then listening, and the computer starts saying, well, there are 20 planets, and the first one is, and the second is. Now, of course, the script writers were smart enough to say, okay, we'll just give the first 1 and 2 and then pick one. And so that is not boring. But in reality, interacting with voice, I really don't see how this works. It can work for some tasks. I can understand that. And one particular scenario that I've seen is doctors who want to add encounter data to patient files. This is an area where indeed you can do this by voice, and doctors are used to doing that. But mostly for input. If you want to do something else, like even imagine you are saying delete that record. Which record? You have to specify it very carefully, because otherwise it deletes something else. So human-computer interaction aided by AI, let's see how it will work. I'm not that keen on having AI chatbots everywhere. That doesn't really work for me. I like to have Claude separately and ask questions and have conversations when I need to. But when I'm just navigating through the web, or when I'm just operating stuff, I'll have to see how this works. I don't know. In the early adopters category, language model innovations. And we have seen interesting developments in the last year, including vision large language models, small language models, reasoning models, state space models. So we are pioneering generative video. Okay. I don't have a lot to say about that other than what I've seen. I haven't watched this closely, so I've seen some videos. Some of them look kind of a little bit weird. We'll have to see. And these are carefully created marketing videos. So let's see if they are actually useful in practice. Small language models continue to gain traction for on-device inference, privacy-preserving applications, and cost-sensitive deployments. Absolutely. So I think small language models might have a great future. It's possible that all our devices will have a small language model embedded in them. Because it's private. It will be great. But if we know these companies, Google will find a way to inject ads into small language models and Facebook and so on. And Apple will find a way to block you from connecting anything else that's not Apple to your small language model. Anyway, retrieval augmented generation, has seen significant growth, is becoming more of a commodity, moving up the adoption curve. Absolutely. In early majority, these technologies have become more matured, widely adopted by software development teams in various organizations. Vector DBs, MLOps, and synthetic data. So vector DBs are very interesting. They are the basis of large language models. It's how the weights are stored. And like with blockchain, you know about the application, the most interesting application, which is Bitcoin, but actually there's a very interesting technology, which is blockchain. And blockchain can help with certain types of data, certain types of storage, and it's not necessarily as expensive to run as Bitcoin. And the same happens with large language models and vector DBs. Vector DBs are one of the fundamental technologies for large language models, and they are definitely something to look at if you want to store specific types of data. Because basically very simplified, what vector DB does is stores vectors that represent connections and distances between, let's say, words, although it would be a better way to say that some kind of semantic symbols. It's just a very simplified idea of what vector DBs are. So if you find yourself in a situation where you feel you might need a different type of database, but you don't know what, you probably need to look at what exists in this space right now, because there are so many different types of database optimized for so many different things, and vector DBs are some of those. I have no information about MLOps and synthetic data. Heard about those, but I won't get into it. And finally, lane majority has also seen new additions. As these technologies are now fully adopted by teams, part of their core architecture patterns. These are mostly about data processing patterns, so lakehouse stream processing, distributed computation. As AI technologies transform from technical task assistants to trusted collaborators that solve real-world complex problems, InfoQ team envisions AI technologies are here to stay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying also. What a surprise. And will continue to develop and innovate, including the domains and applications that we have not thought about. Yeah. I think this is very much in flux. I also believe that we are getting close to the trough of disillusionment. So I think this is a Gardner model, if I remember correctly, where there's initial excitement for technology, and then people start realizing, so people see a lot of the marketing, let's say, and hype, but then people start realizing that technology is not actually living to the hype, and it goes down, and this is the trough disillusionment, and then it eventually stabilizes to a point where the technology is, or the innovation, as the Gardner model would be, is finding its own footing and where it fits. And I think this is what we are starting to see. So we are seeing two conflicting trends. One is the beginning of AI transformations in organizations, and the second is the beginning of the trough disillusionment. And it will be interesting to see how these converge. I have no idea what will happen financially with these companies, but that's something that we'll have to see and live through, I guess. Some of the team's prediction for the next year include: we expect AI agents, AI-enabled coding, and software development tools to keep going. Yeah. We are going to see the things that are truly useful to people as the things that set the new precedent for the next foundations of the internet. Yeah, the internet will change due to these technologies. I don't know exactly how, and I don't think anybody knows yet how. But one possibility is that instead of a website, you might have an API that serves data to large language models, and the interaction is through agents. And then there's the question on how this will affect the businesses on internet. Will you have licenses that you provide for agents? Will you be paid based on what is included in the model and so on? So these things will change. So we'll see. I don't know. Another prediction is on video RAG. We'll have long form videos, and it'll become a challenge to differentiate between a human generated video and AI generated video. Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll start talking about the AI bubble. I mean, some people are already talking about the AI bubble. Not that the technology is not going to work, because the technology is here and the technology is going to stay, but more regarding the industry itself. Yeah, there are many questions about the financial model for the companies who offer large language models, so that might shift. But the technology will stay. The cat is out of the bag. We cannot get it back. It's just out. It will just keep moving. AI will continue to be a more and more subtle part of our lives. The future interactions will be more context-based and behind-the-scenes types of interactions. Yeah, maybe. Although, I mean, they could be hidden inside large applications. And that's correct. So these are some of their conclusions and predictions. Now let's see what else is attracting my attention. So late majority NoSQL databases, in-memory data grids. Yeah, we talked about those. Actually, Actually, also did the architectural katas on this. Recommendation engines like houses Apache Flink. In early majority, you have digital assistants, open table formats. All right, so we talked about the most interesting ones. Early adopters, data contracts, cloud agnostic computing for AI, generative AI and large language models, obviously. Explainable AI, interesting, as an early adopter. This is something that needs to happen more. And innovators, we also have edge inference and model training. AI-powered hardware. Yeah, I think we'll start to see hardware that is running AI directly. That's definitely something that will happen. It's also one of the reasons why I believe that we'll see a reduction in energy consumption for AI. I think we'll start getting more specialized hardware that deals with that, but we'll have to see. So that's the report. What do I think about that? I think that, as I said in conclusion, large language models are here to stay. We will work as developers with large language models. It's likely that part of our work in writing code will be eased by these models. Some people will hate it, some people already hate it. I think it's also time to start looking at software development not as writing code, but as solving problems sometimes through code. Because if you see things like that, what I like to do, for example, I like to solve problems. If I have an AI assistant that helps me, that's great. If I focus on writing code and the assistant is writing the code for me, then I'm really annoyed. So let's shift this. We'll have to. And I also believe that some of the jobs that will be more interesting will be not so much about creating the code, but software architecture and security. And based on those, you can actually have people who become even more integrated, and you have more of a person doing multiple roles. Imagine somebody with a lot of experience that does software architecture, who makes the decisions, but also implements the code and also tests it and also makes sure that it's secure. And you could do this with the appropriate support for AI agents along the way. This is one of the possible models for the future in software development. Now, I don't know if this will be the model, but it's definitely one of the options. So what do you think about all this? Like, share, subscribe. Leave us a comment and tell us what has been the impact of large language models in your work. How does this influence, and what do you think will be the future? Or ask us some questions. Give us suggestions for other videos that we might do. Thank you kindly for the view, and until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart. See you next Saturday.